Have you ever had a best friend you would do literally anything for, no matter how crazy, dangerous, or hard it is? The story I'm about to tell you is about a friendship like that, a perfect example of a bromance. And to be honest, these guys take it to another level. Let's start with Chuck Levine, who is a womanizer like no other. This guy really knows his way with women. Some would say he is a bit of an asshole. Me, on the other hand, would call him a goddamn genius. Then we have Larry Valentine. He's a genuine and nice guy who is a recent widower that is struggling to raise his 2 children. Now I'm done explaining and let's dive into the story. It all begins as we get an insight into a normal day in Chuck and Larry's life. 2 hotties are competing over Chuck, who just happens to be twins. Chuck has had an affair with the wrong twin he is dating, but of course had no idea of this. Man, what I would do to be in this man's shoes. We are about to witness an epic scene, but of course the alarm goes off and it's time to save the day. While on their way to a fire, we are getting introduced to a new character in their life. A new recruit who just happens to be a bit scary. When they arrive at the fire, they are greeted by a woman in panic. She begs them to save her son's life, who is inside the burning building. While inside the burning building, we get to witness the horror and struggles of firefighter battles with every single day. The building is collapsing more and more by the second, and while following the voice of the trapped child, they realize they have to cut down a wall to reach him. When they reach him, they quickly realize this will be one of their hardest tasks ever. Now, I'm not gonna shame someone over their size, but this child is more of a whale if you ask me. Chuck has the genius idea to split the child into pieces, but that idea gets quickly shut down. But they come up with a great idea on how to save him, and we get to witness a really funny scene. And the boy gets on his feet for the first time for at least a few years. Their plan works and they, against all odds, save the helpless whale. No, I meant child. After the fire, we switch the scene into Larry's home and get an insight on Larry's amazing set of skills regarding cooking. A real Gordon Ramsay if you ask me. When they have eaten, we get to witness Larry open some mail regarding his life insurance policy. What's written in the papers terrifies Larry, and he decides to book an appointment with the insurance company. The recorded voice, however, doesn't let him because it can't seem to understand his last name. I love this scene because I can relate so badly. Sometime later, we get to see Larry's appointment. He finds out that a lapse in the paperwork after his wife's death keeps him from naming his children as primary beneficiaries. The representative from the insurance company suggests that Larry find a new spouse so he can name that person as his beneficiary. She then starts to flirt and shows clear interest in taking that position herself. However, there is no woman in Larry's life that he loves or trusts. After the meeting, we get to see Chuck and Larry back at their work. They are ordered to do a standard sweep of a burnt-down building. Here is when things really start to hit the fan. In a hilarious argument regarding eating a dead rat, Chuck falls through the ceiling of the 2nd floor. Here we witness how much love they have for each other. Larry succeeded in making Chuck's fall non-lethal by catching him. The fall does, however, knock Chuck unconscious. Larry has one more heroic moment. Larry's action saved Chuck's life. They both wake up at the hospital where, of course, our player immediately starts to flirt with the doctor. However, when Larry wakes up, Chuck starts to thank him, and he tells him he will do whatever Larry wants to repay him. Before leaving the hospital, we get to see a beautiful scene of Larry's family hugging each other. While getting escorted out on wheelchairs, Larry tells Chuck that he wants to quit his job. It can't guarantee his safety, and he doesn't want to leave the children all alone. Chuck, however, tries to convince him not to. Before they go separate ways, we get to see how much of a player Chuck really is as he is getting greeted by a couple of insanely hot women. Back home, Larry is sitting and thinking of a plan to fix this life insurance problem. And because of a newspaper, Larry gets a brilliant idea: same-sex marriage. And it's time to collect the favor from Chuck. And this is why you need to check yourself before saying the word anything you want. But Chuck is not impressed and declines. Larry doesn't give up though and keeps giving arguments to why he must do this. And after giving a very random but touching story about his kids being all alone, Chuck is about to agree. But they get interrupted by Chuck's other guests. It's the gorgeous women from before, And of course they are all half naked. And the guest of honor is the doctor from before. God damn, this guy's game is out of this world. But back to the argument, Chuck accepts Larry's request on one term, that no one will find out about this. The next day they go undercover and sign all the papers needed for them to become partners, entering a domestic partnership, which means Chuck becomes Larry's primary beneficiary in the event of his death. Mission complete, also they think. We switch back to Larry's house where he gets a taste of what living with Chuck will be like. He opens Chuck's mail and surprise, surprise, is a lot of sex stuff. His daughter walks by in the absolute worst timing and asks if the dolls are for her. He dodges this bullet by saying it's for practicing CPR. Sometime later, Larry gets a surprise visit from the insurance company who wants to check if this partnership is real or if it's a scam. This shocked Larry to say the least, because he thought that no one would find out. The guy tells him that this is standard checkup and it's something they must do. But he lets him know that if something smells fishy, he will take this errand further, and they will have a surprise visit from an investigator for several months. While going through Larry's home, Chuck comes back, and of course ruins it by being everything but gay, calling out the girl next door for her banging body. They try to fix this, however, by overcompensating and start acting how they think is super gay. It is, however, a shit show to say the least. The investigator gives them a hint, which basically says, "Come on, I know it's an act." Scared by this, Chuck and Larry decide to enlist the help of a lawyer to see how much trouble they are in if their cover gets blown. They obviously don't tell the lawyer that their partnership is fake. This is only to find out the consequences. The lawyer they have hired immediately has Chuck's attention. She just happens to be a babe like no other. Her name is Alex McDonough. Alex starts by explaining that the insurance company will dig deeper and deeper, and gives them the idea to get married to show the insurance company that they are in love and that their partnership is real. They waste absolutely no time and head for Niagara Falls, Canada for a quick same-sex marriage at a wedding chapel. They hire a witness and the show starts. This is a great scene with tons of comedy moments, where we get to see a homeless guy stomps the dance floor. Back home they realize they have to sell their secret much better and decide that Chuck needs to move in. It doesn't take more than 2 minutes before Chuck makes a move on the not-so-hot maid. Chuck then gets a taste of the amazing cooking skills of Larry, and like the rest of his family, he's not impressed and he sure lets him know it. They are already acting like a married couple. After a couple of arguments, it's time for bed. The next day starts with a surprise, or at least for Larry. We see that our player of the story couldn't even stay one day without having sex, and has already slept with the maid, whilst Larry were lying next to them. This day is about to become even worse for Larry. As he walks out to grab the newspaper, he sees a man going through his garbage. Obviously, Larry thinks this is weird and walks up to him asking what the F he's doing. The man is none other than Clint Fitzer, the best goddamn investigator in the world. And he is here for one thing and one thing only: to expose Chuck and Larry. After giving Larry a speech about how his garbage is not very homosexual and that the government don't like people who scan them, he drives away. This causes Larry to panic, and he runs into his house telling Chuck that they need to make the place more gay. And they decide to, and I quote, "gay this shit up." They first head to the grocery shop to buy more stuff that would make them seem gay. At the store, Chuck bumps into his lawyer crush. Alex is really happy to see him and invites him and Larry to an event. The event is a gay benefit costume party. Chuck accepts and is really happy that he gets to spend more time with Alex. This event is interesting to say the least. Chuck is getting javated when he thinks he walks up to Alex, but it's in fact another dude. After a while they find Alex, who introduces them to her brother, and they end up having a good time. The fun is about to take a wrong turn when Chuck and Larry almost are exposed because they don't know how to dance. They fix this, however, with a smooth move and start to slow dance with each other. When it's time to go home, however, things don't go their way. When they step outside, they are confronted by homophobic protesters. The protesters start to provoke them and give them a really hard time. Chuck can't stand this for long, and the night ends with him knocking out the leader of the group after the leader called Chuck the F-word. The incident was picked up by the local news. After being exposed, Chuck needs a chill day and he heads to the bar. While being there, he gets a call from Alex. The call ends though with Alex inviting him to a girls' day. Chuck happily accepts the invite. Chuck and Alex spend the whole day with each other, doing what we all picture a girls' day to be: a lot of shopping. Here we get to see Chuck really take on his role as an undercover homosexual, really selling his part. While this is going on, Larry is at his kid's school talking about his job. After doing this, he gets into an argument with another parent who tells Larry that he has been fired from all the activities revolving around the kids. Larry quickly realizes that this is because the news that his fake secret is out. Larry is fed up by this homophobic idiot and we get to witness this asshole get beaten up. We switch back to our girls' day, where we get to see Chuck and Alex run for the hills because of the rain. After getting inside, Alex starts to undress. Chuck, of course, like the rest of us, can't look away and is really close to blowing his cover. But he gets a genius idea on how to cover his excitement. But he can't stop looking and out of nowhere starts to give her compliments about her body. Don't ask me how, but this ends up with Alex telling Chuck her body is all natural and Chuck puts her words to the test. A very nice scene if you ask me. Back to the movie, we get to witness Chuck be denied to play basketball with his colleagues at work. Chuck also understands why they do this and tells them to piss off. It seems like all of their so-called friends have turned against them for being gay. There is one man, however, who stands with them. The newly recruited fireman Fred G. Duncan, who we all thought was an angry stone-cold killer, is actually a genuine nice guy who also happens to be gay. He thanks and embraces Chuck for his bravery for coming out. The next scene is a hilarious one. We get to witness the fire department tremble in fear when they drop the soap in the showers. This scene ends, however, with an absolute banger where Duncan and Chuck put on a show. After the shower, Chuck ends up at Alex's place again. They have a good time hanging out and drinking some wine. Maybe a bit too much wine, because we are about to witness Chuck make a great mistake. It all starts with a foot rub, but we all know that this is not where it ends. After showing Alex how he and Larry are intimate with each other, they end up kissing. Alex starts to freak the F out. Chuck is trying to explain, but she kicks him out of the apartment. While that drama is going on, Larry is getting another unexpected visit from Clint Fitzgerald, who apparently is trash at basketball. But he is master in getting information. He gets Larry's kid to spill some info regarding Chuck's whereabouts. Clint Fitzgerald is happy and leaves with this newfound information. But first, he showcases his trash skill once more. Larry is obviously not happy with Chuck, and the next day, when they work together, Larry confronts him. He blames Chuck for not taking the relationship seriously enough. Chuck gets really frustrated and goes on a rampage, telling him he can't do this anymore. The problem just keeps on piling up. Back at the fire department, they face a petition to have them both removed from the department. The boss, however, makes a deal to have them in separate shifts instead. Larry's is having none of this bullshit. He confronts his fellow colleagues and preaches about how many times Chuck has saved their asses. He ends his speech by saying, "Oh, a fire. I hope it's not a big one, because the F word who's been saving your sorry asses thanks to you is on another shift." When Larry's shift is over and gets back home, we get to witness their love for each other as they talk things out and repair the damage. A beautiful scene of bromance. The happiness doesn't last long though. The marriage soon comes under fire, as numerous women provide testimonies to having slept with Chuck in the recent past. But Chuck doesn't fold. He keeps on playing his part and convinces Alex all of that was just a phase. The crazy part is that she actually believes him and chooses to still be their lawyer. The couple is called into court to defend their marriage on charges of fraud. They are defended by Alex, and believe it or not, their fellow firefighters arrive in support. Larry's rant earlier must have touched them in all the right places. They realize all Chuck and Larry have done for them over the years, and how they were treating Chuck and Larry. Fitzgerald interrogates both men, who testify that they genuinely love each other. And what do you know, things actually are looking great, because these two men do love each other. They know everything about each other and can answer every single question. However, Fitzgerald has one more ace up his sleeve. As his final demand, Fitzer asks for the pair to kiss to prove that their relationship is physical, but before they do so, they are interrupted by Captain Phineas J. Tucker, who finally reveals that their marriage is a sham and that they are both straight. He says, "I'd rather change my grandfather's diapers than see two straight guys kissing." Tucker attempts to save Chuck and Larry by claiming that he would have to be arrested as well, since he knew about the falsity, but failed to report it. This prompts the other firefighters to each claim a role in the wedding in a show of solidarity, proving that you always have your friends back no matter what. However, Chuck, Larry, and the other firefighters are sent to jail for stealing from the city of New York. But they are quickly released after negotiating a very random deal to provide some daring photos, to say the least, for an AIDS research benefit calendar. 2 months later, Duncan and Alex's brother, Kevin, are married in Canada at the same chapel as Chuck and Larry were. At the wedding party, Larry finally moves on after the death of his wife and talks to a new woman. And our player finally gets to make a real move on his newfound love, Alex. So after all, it went okay for our bromance couple. This movie is a great example of why friends and family are the best thing in this world. I would definitely recommend you all to watch this movie. I had a hard time breathing as I laughed constantly. Thanks for watching another Time Savers video. Please like and subscribe.